This episode is brought to you by Dime Media. Love supporting local, but looking to save? I've got the solution. Introducing the 2025 CNY Women's Network Members Card. This is your passport to exclusive year-round savings at over 35 amazing women-owned businesses across Central New York. Whether you're grabbing coffee, booking a spa day, or shopping a local boutique, using your members card means more than just discounts. You're empowering women, strengthening small businesses, and building a thriving community one purchase at a time. Want to see all the offers and partner spots? Head to cnywomensnetwork.com/members-card or click the link in our bio. And here's the best part. Join the collective by CNY Women's Network and you'll get your members card free with your annual membership. More details at cnywomensnetwork.com/membership. Let's grow together, one card, one connection, one business at a time. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Cultivate CNY. I'm your host, Alex Canavan, and I could not be more excited to welcome Kate Houck to the show today. For nearly a decade, Kate Houck has been the heart and driving force behind David's Refuge, a Central and Western New York organization dedicated to supporting parents and guardians of children with special needs or life-threatening illnesses. Under her leadership since 2015, David's Refuge has not only expanded its reach and impact, but it's also been recognized as one of Central New York's best places to work for 5 consecutive years. Through innovative programming and tireless advocacy, Kate has helped redefine what community support looks like for caregivers facing extraordinary challenges. Kate also founded Brave CNY in 2023, a prosocial consulting firm in Fayetteville focused on developing individuals, businesses, and organizations throughout Central New York. Before her time at David's Refuge, Kate spent over 10 years with the Muscular Dystrophy Association, honing her leadership skills and deepening her passion for service. A SUNY Cortland alumna and a proud 40 under 40 honoree, Kate is committed to fostering growth, not just within her organization, but throughout her community. She lends her expertise to groups like Profound Mastermind, Women United, and the Marsellus Forward nonprofit leadership group. She's deeply invested in leadership and DEI training to strengthen her impact in Central New York. In this episode, we dive into Kate's journey, the transformative work of David's Refuge, and the ways leadership, compassion, and resilience can change not just lives, but the entire community. So without further ado, let's welcome Kate Houck to the show. Kate Houck, welcome to Cultivate CNY.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I can already tell this is going to be a great podcast, great conversation. We've already been chatting it up.
That's right.
So
We're
there's
all warmed up.
we're all warmed up. There's a lot of ground we can cover here. All things leadership, culture, team building. You are one of the few people that I refer to as a Syracuse sweetheart.
Aw.
Everybody knows you. Everybody loves you. So if there's anyone listening that has never heard of you or David's Refuge, let's give them a brief rundown.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for having me. And a Syracuse sweetheart, I have not heard that. So that means a great deal to my heart received. Thank you for that. This community means a great deal to me. And it's the people, always the people, that make living just incredibly sweet. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yeah.
It's all about the incredible humans that live in this community that are willing to open their hearts and their minds to new ideas, and I think come together in collaboration. That's what this community is all about, you know? So at David's Refuge, this beautiful mission I get to run. They give me the key to the door. David's Refuge was founded in this beautiful community in Manlius, New York, back in 2012 by a mom and a dad, and their son, David, had a genetic disease that they became his caregiver for 13 years throughout. And David was a beautiful soul. He was someone who saw the beauty in people, even though he started to lose his vision and cognitive function. He was always someone who would warmly welcome you in a room, would warmly smile and light up, and want people to know that they were loved. And so when he passed, Warren and Brenda started this beautiful mission of David's Refuge in their home. I always say, like any of us would do on our own dime, we would convert a wing of our house into a 5-star bed and breakfast. And they started welcoming moms and dads who were full time caregivers, just like them. They were mommies and daddies, but they also were full time caregivers to their children with special needs. They would welcome them into their house and they would give them a space to breathe. They would let them sleep over and have this beautiful experience. They would send them to dinner. And most of all, they would do like what we're doing right now. They would sit across the table with them and they would say, "You're not alone in what you're doing. What you do matters deeply, and God in this community loves you. And we want you to know that when you walk back out into the world, into that caregiver role." And so David's Refuge was started, and a few years in, they said, "Okay, this thing is taking off," and that's when they decided to hire someone in the capacity that I was able to come in as their development director, working directly for a founder, learning the ropes. And then about a year after that, they decided to step back from the organization. And it's been me and a beautiful team that's been crafted every step of the way. So 10 years later, here we are.
That's incredible. So I didn't know that you were the first development officer, really. You've developed the organization, the brand itself so incredibly. I mean, I would say that in terms of, I mean, we have so many nonprofit organizations here that are amazing resources to our community members, but David's Refuge, I would say, when I think of amazing nonprofits here in Central New York, that's definitely top of mind. So they were just, for the first couple of years, they were just welcoming people into their home and kind of uh being their host. And what about the children that they were taking care of? Were they taking on that responsibility for just a short time for them, or what did that look like? Just kind of operations wise.
Yeah. So for about a year, they would welcome moms and dads into their home. So 43 couples came in the first year,
Okay.
which
Wow,
there's
it's like
52
almost
weeks in
every
a
week.
year.
Yeah.
Right. So Warren and Brenda were doing everything. They were doing the cooking, the cleaning, the welcoming, the hosting. And then they were able to hire a part-time person to help with those logistics. And after a year, they did start to outsource the actual support of the host, the role of the bed and breakfast. So they knew that they couldn't continue having people in and out of their home all of the time and be able to love on the people. And that was at their core what they wanted. They wanted to love on these moms and dads. They wanted to show them another mom and dad who had been through it and say, we got through it and you can too. And sometimes as humans, that's the one thing we need. We need just one other example of someone who got through it to hold on to and to give us hope. So they started to outsource that part of it. They would use beautiful bed and breakfast locations like the Sherwood Inn and Skinny Atlas. They would send the mom and dad there, and then they would also show up in the morning still and have breakfast. But they didn't have to do all the cooking and the cleaning. So it was a really beautiful model that was created. They brought me in about a year later, and that was at a time when the organization, they decided fully, like, let's go in, let's do this. And I started to work directly with Warren, learn the ropes, and then start to really be able to take the organization with all of the skills I developed as a leader at the Muscular Dystrophy Association for 10 years. I was able to bring that in and start to really build the foundation of how do we create a budget? How do we scale? How do we start to grow this so that we can serve more families? How do we go from a founding board to a working board? And so we worked with a lot of community partners like the Gifford Foundation, the Community Foundation. None of this was done single-handedly. This was a full community effort to bring a David's Refuge into what you see today. So it's been quite a journey. I always tell nonprofit leaders, I'm like, call me. I have it. I've made the mistake. I've taken the wrong turn. I have the document. I've created the charter. Don't recreate. We're all in this together. So we were able to move forward and really build something that the community knows us today. And I gotta say, like, we still got a lot to go. So it's a very exciting ride for sure.
Yeah. And, there's so much potential there with what you guys do. Are there any similar organizations or nonprofits around, maybe across the Center State region or in New York State, that are similar to David's Refuge?
So, not that we have identified, especially in New York. There's some organizations that do really want to help the caregiver. They want to support the caregiver, but not exactly in the way that David's Refuge has grown to be able to do that. It's a beautiful thing that for 10 years, for 12 years, all we have focused on is the caregiver. All we have thought about is what are the symptoms of caregiver burnout? How can we come alongside a mom and a dad? How can we help them in this journey? And that's been our sole focus. So the innovation that has come from that has been truly incredible. I have this beautiful team. There's 8 of us, and every person on the team is plugged in such a beautiful way, thinking about our vision to become a community that is nationally recognized for empowering caregivers to lead their families with strength and grace. Because at the end of the day, that's really what we all want to do. Even if you're not a caregiver, even if you're not a parent, you want to lead yourself. You want to show up with strength and grace and be able to handle situations with beauty, right? You want to walk out of rooms leaving them better than where you found them. And that's the same thing for caregivers. They are leading a really challenging life, having to take care of another human and have that human fully depend on them for everything, sometimes for 40 to 50 years. So you can only imagine it's very hard to care for yourself and show up in an empowered way when you're also full-time caregiving. So the tools and tips that David's Refuge provides, the overnight respite, the wellness opportunities, financial, spiritual, mental, physical, all of these different pieces, the big community events we do, these are all meant to get us towards that vision of empowerment.
Yeah, and it's such a strong mission, honestly, because I'm sure nobody grows up thinking or planning to become a caretaker of a sick child or a disabled child, um, or even a spouse, a partner. Things happen, life happens, and I'm not too close to that world, fortunately, but from what I've seen, it's really hard on your mental health, especially if you do feel like you're alone in it all.
Absolutely.
So it
Yeah.
really is all about that kind of validation, that example of hope of you're not alone in this. We've got you. And kind of, yeah, helping the caretaker avoid burnout and continue to fulfill their purpose and take care of that person.
Right. I always think like we can't take their pain away. I would never say we're taking all of the hardship away, the pain. We can't do that. But what we can do is arm them with the tools. We can arm them with the tools they need so that when they do have a situation, when their child is in the hospital, and they are in this really tough season of life that's even harder than what their normal challenging season of life is, that they will not feel like a tidal wave has hit them, that maybe they've already gathered the tools that they need, the breathing techniques, the eating healthy, so that they are the strongest version of themselves. And this applies to anyone listening. This applies to all of us in our day to day grind. Yes, we focus on caregivers, but if you're in a position of caring for another human, if you're caring for your spouse, if you're caring for your aging parent, this also applies to you. You cannot care for others unless you first care for yourself. It's the oxygen mask theory. You have to put it on yourself first, or you will eventually frazzle out. And then who's caring for that loved one who needs you? You have to put yourself first. So that's really what we preach, you know. Self-care isn't selfish, it's necessary.
Absolutely. So, I'd love to talk about nonprofits just in general. I've seen them, I know them, I love them, but I'm still personally a little confused at how all of it works, how they become established. And I feel like you are the perfect person for me to ask these questions to. So, for example, if I wanted to start a nonprofit organization here in Central New York, what would my first few steps be? What do I need to do that?
Well, outside of just the legal stuff, you would need to apply for your exemption status and to become a 501c3. So you would get all of that paperwork actually going. And I know that's not what you want to talk about.
I
Um,
honestly know nothing about the paperwork,
yeah.
so get you just break it down. I'm here for it.
Lots of paperwork.
Yeah,
So
that's
be
what I've
ready for
heard. That's
that.
why I haven't
Yeah.
done it.
Yeah. And luckily for me, Warren and Brenda, our founders, they went through that with the founding board. And so I guess I got lucky there. I didn't have to actually be the person doing that paperwork, but now I have walked alongside many other leaders who are getting their things going. And I think the paperwork changes, but there's certain applications that you need to complete. But the other big piece is having enough people around you. You wouldn't just start a for-profit company without having a really great product and a great community of people around you that believe in your product, right? And I think a lot of times people think like, I'll just start a nonprofit. And you really have to think of it as a business. You have to think of it as, what does it take to be successful in a for-profit business? Because it's the exact same thing in many cases that you need to be successful in a non-for-profit. So what is your product? What is your mission? I still will talk to agencies who've been around for a few years and don't have a solid mission statement, don't have a solid value statement, a vision for where they want to take their organization.
I've noticed, like, with some nonprofits I've noticed that very thing, and I've seen people also, like, waver too in their mission, and that creates a lot of confusion. And I don't know if it's do you do you think it's because, because of funding maybe? It's like, I know this certain grant is available, so I'm going to make sure we are structuring our operations and our mission to get that grant.
Yeah,
Is
that
that
can
a
be,
thing?
it's definitely a thing.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
It's more, like, popular than I probably thought, but I have noticed that a little bit. Why do you think people are like, back to what you said, why do you think some people are like, "Oh, I'm just gonna start a nonprofit?"
I think a lot of times it's done out of love and emotion. And I'm not really sure. Sometimes that can really work. But love and emotion and even trauma can only, I think, get you so far because you're really in the thick of that emotion. And a lot of times I think starting the agency, starting the nonprofit is a way to continue on the legacy of a loved one or different things like that. That can get you a few years in. But until you actually start running it more like a business and taking the emotion out of it, sometimes you always have to have emotion in nonprofit. But I think you do have to separate yourself sometimes because you still have to make really tough decisions. If you have staff, you still have to do all the same things that for-profit leaders have to do, maybe in a less cutthroat type of way, but you still have to make really tough decisions. It's not always about the heartfelt, lovey-dovey stuff. It's business. And so I think sometimes missions that are started in the essence of loss or grief, I think sometimes the business side of it, the plan is what may be lacking, and I think that can sometimes be hard few years in when you have volunteers running the organization. And people do, like I said, they fizzle out. The energy is only so much. If you don't have the funding now paying the staff to do their jobs, there's only so much that people can go on love, grief, those emotional things. You have to be able to pay people to fully take on a mission, to run it. There's a lot of components like that. So starting with a board, developing that board of directors before you even submit the paperwork, I would say is a really another big, huge step that sometimes is missed. Like the paperwork submitted, now we need a board. You can't even submit your paperwork without a board of directors. So it's getting the right players in place and making sure you have the finance person, you have the HR person, you have the legal person. Those are people that are going to help you navigate the journey and make sure that you don't fall into any major potholes as well.
So how many people do you need on a board of directors? Isn't there, like, a certain number, or
So
is
it,
there just specific roles that need to be fulfilled?
I would say it's more about the roles at the very beginning of your startup, more so than the numbers. You also have to create bylaws. So that's something that the legal person would be able to help you navigate most likely. But the bylaws are also part of what governs the organization, what tells you how many people would be on your board. And you decide all of those things with the help of a legal professional. So based on the size of your organization, when we started David's Refuge, I believe there was 8 people on our board. Now we have 16. So it grows with the organization, the number of people you have around that table. But at the very beginning, I would say those key positions are definitely those people that have that knowledge. They know how to, when you receive a donation, they know how to properly record that gift so that you're safe on that side. When the legal questions come in and the bylaws need to be written, you have that legal support. So those are people that you absolutely need to have around the table first.
Good to know. I'm picking your brain. For me, and this will lead into, the next topic I want to talk about of team building. I think single-handedly the hardest part of building a business, a nonprofit, building really anything is finding the right people and building the team. And not only that, understanding how to lead those people, lead the team. I mean, that is just like a whole separate skill set that I still don't think I really have. Certainly, definitely didn't have before I started CNY Women's Network. But, um, in the past 2 years of doing this, like I have had the privilege of building teams, working with teams, especially with our summit. We have a much larger team for that. Lots of learning experiences there. So let's start with building the team. How do you know who you need, what type of person you need, where you're going to put them, and what you're asking and giving? Like that's a pretty big
Oh, just
question.
that?
But
Yeah.
I feel like even just the identification of like, I know I need help. I'm struggling, but what help do I need and how do I find it?
So when I started at David's Refuge, there was our founders who were voluntary, executive director in that role, and then we had a part-time person who did our respite program. So she was more of our program staff at that time, and myself. And now there's 8 of us. So over the last 10 years, this is something that I've had to really work on myself and understand, how do you know when it's time to hire that next person? What is that next person? So what I use and I share often with a lot of nonprofit leaders is it's an actual Excel spreadsheet, and I build out the current titles in the organization. So I don't attach names because names are emotions sometimes and names are too specific. You want to build it for your actual company. So I have executive director, I have development director, I have program associate, I have all of our different positions across the top of this spreadsheet. So if you look back to probably 2016, there was 3 columns on my spreadsheet at that time. There was executive director, development director, and program associate. What I would do is I would list out all the things that each of us would do, our expectations of that role. So I knew those 3. But once it got to, I'm a really simple person. Once it got to out of my one screenshot on my screen, once it got to the bottom of that Excel column, I would know that it was time to add a new column. So I would start to move some of the tasks over to a new column and create a new staff position. And for a time being, until you have the money to do so and actually hire a whole new person, you might have one person doing 2 columns. But it's a really great visual to show your board of directors and say, okay, my role is now executive director and development director. And we're going to work to fund this development director position because it's time, because both columns are full. Both of these have enough depth, enough responsibility with the growth of the company to take on another role, fully another full-time person. So I have been doing that process for the last 10 years at David's Refuge. And I'll start to notice that, okay, in order to grow this service, we would need to add another staff person because this person's already full. And then I'll start to move responsibilities around on that spreadsheet so that I can see, okay, maybe this person doesn't take on all those roles anymore. So we're going to actually create a new position that can take on more. Or we'll do an analysis of our current business and we'll understand that there's something we really want to be doing. There's like this great additional communication timeline that we could be implementing to really support our caregivers. So we're going to actually create that position on the spreadsheet. And what would it look like? And then we're going to process who would that look like? If they were here every day, what would they be doing? So that helps me determine too, is this a part-time position? Is this a full-time position? I actually visualize the person in their role, where they would be sitting every day, what they would be doing, how they would complement the team. So that's really how I make decisions on filling the staff and scaling up David's Refuge. At the core of it, it all goes to budget too. You have to, I'm a believer, I don't take a ton of risks. I mean, I run a nonprofit, so it's all educated risk. And making sure you obviously have the funding in place, because I never want to hire someone and then have to let them go a year later. They are part of our family. They are part of our culture now. So I really take a lot of time determining that this is the right next step. I bring our board around the table. I bring my current staff around the table for these decisions. This is not a Kate Houck show. This is a David's Refuge decision. This is a team decision on what is this next right step for us, because we're building a company together. So I will have the initial idea many times, but then I will bring a lot of people around the table to vet it out as well. Always looking for my who in a lot of these decisions. Don't ever feel as a leader like you have to do it alone. You shouldn't be doing it alone, especially when you're building a company. So I love to bring my who's around the table too and use them.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
And it must be so empowering to just have a collective goal and to be able to tap into so many different intelligences that are sitting around the table, because that's what a board is, right? It's a collaboration of all these wildly independent, intelligent people coming together and just doing nothing but giving to the mission, right?
Yeah.
But I'm definitely going to steal that. I mean, thank you for telling me that. That's
Sure.
like these tools. This is what I need more of personally. So I'm definitely going to be making this spreadsheet, because I think I've been struggling um with that. How are we going to scale this? I know we need more help, but I don't, and it's also just, I think, hard when you're building a team, especially if you are working with so many capable, versatile, dynamic people. It's hard to separate those responsibilities sometimes. And I think when the organization's small, new, developing, a lot of us are dipping into each other's responsibilities and just trying to keep the ball rolling. Um, how long would you spend, from in terms of timeline when you're scaling and adding a new position? What is that time frame between, okay, I am loading all these responsibilities into a new column now, to actually going and hiring that person? Because I know that there's got to be some sort of fundraising and revenue
Revenue.
accumulation there.
Yeah. So it really would vary for us on all the different positions that we have been able to hire. I think for me, the universe is pretty welcoming. Once I have it down on paper and barring any crazy events, like I've wanted to hire someone in Rochester for the past 5 years, but COVID, I didn't give many things to COVID as far as it slowed us down, this and that. I find that we built a lot through that. But I will give COVID the that took away my ability to expand David's Refuge into a new territory. I couldn't focus on another city and here. So I would say that position has been the longest coming for David's Refuge, and we're going to do it by the end of the summer. We're going to have a person out in the community in Rochester working for us and being part of spreading this mission. So I would say, though, for most of our positions, I would plant the seed a year in advance with the powers that be, which would be my team and our board of directors. So all of us as colleagues would have this in the next year. This is the next position I see that we need. And then we would all go to work in our own ways to say, okay, program team, this is the position. Let's help fill this column up. What are the gaps you're currently experiencing? Let's make sure this is the position we actually think is the next right hire. And then the board would come alongside to help me look at the financials and determine if this was the next right step for the organization. So a lot of it would be my initial plant this seed. I'm going to throw this out to you guys in this universe. And then it would come through fruition. It would become part of our next annual budget. I would write the job description up, put it out into the universe, and then the hire would happen. So I would say it's about a year in advance of just even knowing that, okay, we're ready for another team member.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know.
So,
I figured like at least 1 to 2 years,
yeah.
kind of, just because of budget and
Yeah.
planning. I need to start getting into a much more realistic, time space. I feel like my concept of time is a little warped. It's almost like when you're in an airport, it's like your concept of time just completely gets thrown off. But I'm also just like really, really ambitious. And I think that things can happen a lot quicker than they actually do. But I've learned a lot.
Another great exercise you can do with your current team is I call it the Post-it note exercise. You all use a wall in your office and you put the staff title or the name. You could use the name this time, and they put a Post-it note up under their name for all the different things that they do. Then you open it up to your team to go and snag Post-its from other people's columns that they really wish they could spend more time doing. So it allows you as the leader to see. There was one example on my team where I had a staff member, this was not in her job at all to do any type of marketing, but she had a real passion for it. So she went up there and it was under another staff member, and she's like, "Hey, I have always wanted to create." So we put it under her role for a bit. She became like one of the best people on my staff to put marketing into the world and to create for David's Refuge. So I wouldn't have ever known that if she didn't tell me in that exercise. So you may have some things. And then I also allowed them to take Post-it notes off of their column that they really didn't enjoy doing, with the caveat that it doesn't mean you're going to not be able to do this anymore. It's good for me to know that this is the thing that you probably put to the bottom of your list every day because you just don't enjoy doing it. Again, you may have to do it, but it's just a good thing to know as the leader what your team loves to do and what they really just don't enjoy doing.
Yeah.
So that was a really fun exercise too.
I love that. No, I was going to ask, like, do you have them weigh in on the things that they would rather not do?
Yeah.
I'm definitely one of those people that I will just fully zone in on the things I love and I'll excel at them. But the things that I do not like, I will avoid like the plague. And I'm not too proud to admit that. So, and I am one of those people that, at least my philosophy when it comes to building a team or bringing people into what I'm trying to build, is who's the person?
Mhm.
You know, who are you
Yeah.
and what do you want to be doing? What do you
Yes.
enjoy doing? Because I just know that if you are doing what you love,
Mhm.
you're going to do an amazing job. And that's
Yeah.
all that matters, right? But of course, it's business and things need to get done that none of us like doing. So,
You may find, though, if you put your own dislikes up, you might have a team member that would love to do some of the things. They just may not know that they can ask you for it because you're the boss. And, it's like, oh, I'd love to do that every day for her. But sometimes we just have this communication gap. And so putting it all out there there might be one huge epiphany that happens, like this one I told you about, that changes the course of your business. I didn't even think about having this person ever touch anything to do with marketing. And then she took our marketing and brought it to the next level. It was a change for the organization forever. So I would have just never known it. So it could just open your eyes to something, one piece of education that'll just change the next step you take. So, yeah.
I love that. Oh my gosh, I'm inspired. I'm going to go home and make a
Good.
spreadsheet.
Spreadsheet time.
Okay. So I would love to know, just, still kind of staying on the topic of nonprofit, but really an organization. This is just a question about running an effective organization. What meetings are you having? Like, how often are you meeting with people? How often are you checking in? I'm sure there's a lot of things that you need to be keeping track of. So I just want to know, what are your standard processes for maintaining an effective and also just healthy organization?
Sure. So starting with people, because it's always going to be about your people. We meet as a team once a week. So we meet every Tuesday. We have a team agenda that's on a shared Google spreadsheet that has headings and titles, and then staff populate their own notes and their own, um, the things that they're proud of. We also talk about our marketing plan for the week, our social media, because we do all of that in house. So that just brings us all together. But I love the shared drive because it allows people to type in, there's space for them to type in new ideas, brainstorm sessions. We also have our mission and our values on this spreadsheet or on this Google Doc. So I ask the team to populate anything that they're really proud of, a value that they've seen show up in another teammate that week, things we want to celebrate. We also have a space for people in our David's Refuge family. This is our caregivers, our team, our board, the community, our donors, things that we have seen that we want to make sure we send a card out into the community for. So people who've lost someone, a wedding that happened, someone's pet passed away. Sometimes we're all scrolling and we see something. So we go in and we put it on there and we make sure to send something out to the community because it's always about people first. And then each staff reports out on what they're doing. And we make our team meetings very fun. I have squeakers on the table. When there's something to shout about, we're squeaking the squeakers and we're just really celebrating the good things. We also leave space every week for one of our team members to teach us something. It's a teach us something section. So I've had one of our director of operations taught us how to make frozen dog treats once. And what you start to see is actually what your team is interested in outside of the grind. But they also can teach us something about their job. So it's really up to them. They have full autonomy to bring 5 minutes of education to the team meeting every week. And it's one staff member and it rotates. So that has been really fun. And that's something I really recommend to other leaders too. Because people love to talk about something that they're passionate about. So it's just my favorite part of every meeting. So we meet weekly as a team. And then once a month, I have a one-on-one with all of my staff. So as we continue to grow, I do question just how much bandwidth I have to continue that. But to me, it's one of the most important hours, 8 hours of my month that I spend, is just these one-on-one sessions where we really go through what's going well for that teammate. What are some things that I can help them with? So that's always my first question. Like, what is it that I could be doing differently right now to support you in your role? What we also reference is our annual review at almost every monthly check-in. So my review is something I created. It's a development tracker, and it goes through skills and traits that colleague wants to increase or improve upon. So every time I meet with them, we bring that up and we talk about what they're doing to change the behavior to get towards the empowerment and working towards those goals they set for themselves. So my annual review process in of itself is much more collaborative. It's not me speaking at them. It's you're a human and you're amazing. And there's probably things that you want to work on because you're a growth-minded human. And how can I support you improving those things? So that monthly check-in, I would say, is key. If a teammate comes and sits across my desk and they're going through a really hard personal time, that's what we spend the hour talking about, or the half hour. So it's really meant to just give space and allow me space to make sure I'm still in the loop with what's happening with each and every employee and individual. I don't even like to call them employees. We're all just, we're people that show up and choose to show up every day at this job for one common purpose. So my role every day is, how can I help you get to your goals? That's what I'm there to do. So what else? And then we just have a really open communication style in my team. One thing I did a few years ago, which I ask every leader to do, is I want you to go to your team and do a stop, start, stay exercise. Ask them what they want you to stop doing, start doing, and keep doing.
Okay, I'm writing that down.
And have them do it without you at the table, obviously.
Okay, so it's not weird. Yeah,
Yeah,
they have
so
that
they can really
freedom to.
talk. So
Yeah.
have a trusted teammate facilitate the meeting.
Okay.
and have them write it down. I had my teammate actually compile all the information and then send it to me so I could digest it a bit.
Yeah, so you're not also.
Yeah, because we're humans.
Yeah.
I mean, I one of the main feedbacks on mine was, Kate, you make faces a lot. So that was huge and eye-opening. And I'm like,
And
I'm
you
sorry.
probably would have made a face if you were
I would have
sitting
made a
there.
lot of faces as I was reading through it. So that exercise opens up the feedback loops, right? So it shows you that the top, the leader in the company is willing to take feedback, is willing to take any feedback. And so when you have teammates now, there's no reason for people to not speak their truth and to give that little piece of feedback, or you've scratched a scab on me today, like, and I want to ask you about it. I want to talk to you about it. Instead of the other things that happen in cultures like triangulation. You hurt me, so I'm going to go talk about that with someone else. And then we're never going to actually talk to the person that hurt you. So we've really moved into a culture where that stuff is not happening. There's open feedback loops. If someone needs to talk about something, they go directly to that staff member. And I think all the things we do, these really open team meetings, these monthly check-ins, this constant culture reminder of what we are here to do helps us sustain that every day.
Yeah, and I mean, clearly it takes a lot of work
Yeah.
to build and to maintain that really incredible company culture. I mean, that is something that a lot of organizations don't have. And I think that that is really the downfall when it comes down to it. If an organization is struggling, it's like, okay, let's look at the people. Let's look at the team. Are the people struggling? What can we do about that? But
Yeah.
I before I started doing this, I was running my own business as a makeup artist and really only had to keep track of myself and my makeup kit. So I just love hearing about stuff like this because I don't have that corporate training. I haven't really worked on a lot of teams. I grew up dancing
Yeah.
competitively my whole life, so that was a very individualistic sort of sport too. So like really understanding these team building things is so new to me. I'm a big people person. I love people and I am all for having open, honest, positive conversations. But I can tell that as a leader, I am lacking the knowledge and the tools around what do I need to be doing consistently? What do I need to
Yeah.
be weaving into these meetings, these one-on-ones? What do I need to be saying? Right. Um, so this was super helpful. So thank you. I appreciate that.
No problem.
And this
Yeah.
is all I mean, all this is incredible. Were there any mentors that kind of, spoke all of this wisdom into you, or was this all just your own
Oh,
resourcefulness?
everyone in my life has been a stepping stone and a beautiful nudge when I needed it, or a slap in the face, or a, a quick hug. There have been so many wonderful people. And what I've really come to realize is there's been people in my journey. I'm always looking for the who's. I say this so often, like, it's not the what for me, it's the who. But then I also find people that are the who and the what, like, or the who and the how. Like, Kate, I'm your person. I'm going to help you through this. And I'm actually going to show you the way. Like, these are the steps you need to take. And I think that's what I've started to try to be now that I'm a little bit more mature. I've had all these people pour into me in such beautiful ways. And now I'm like, how can I give this back? Because I think people need the rule book a little bit. And I needed the rule book. I needed the play by play of, okay, you're telling me all this stuff, but how? How do I do that? And so obviously a lot of it's by trying something and not working, backfiring,
Which is
taking
usually
a
the
lot
route
of
I
notes.
take. That's usually how I learn, but I would like to actually start learning instead of making mistakes.
But the biggest thing I think leaders where they miss is you think that you don't have what it takes to do it. And so you just don't try. So it's going outside of the box a bit. It's telling yourself that I do have what it takes. I can try outside of the box ideas. There are not many companies in the city that have squeakers on their desk, and we are one of the most professional staffs, the highest skill level teams. Like, I'm not downplaying any of that, but we're still human beings and we still like to have fun. And the laughter drives more success and the laughter drives more innovation. So rather than us just having this stringent meeting, like I'm going to insert the fun because I know that that drives more results for David's Refuge. So I think sometimes we just have it backwards. Like we have to look a certain way and act a certain way. And I think that's pretty backwards. I think we need to be human first. We just have to be human. It's okay to text a smiley face emoji to a major donor. I just did it before I walked in here because he's in a meeting and he's not having a good day. And so send him a little sunshine emoji and a joke because that's what's going to break it for him. That's what's going to make him realize I'm actually just thinking of him. I'm not thinking about him as a donor. He's a human and he's not having a great day. So I'm going to text him. So I think sometimes we just as leaders, we have to be that ourselves. And then we have to allow our teams to be that too, So many people have shown me the way. Many people have also shown me what I don't want to be. And I've probably learned more from those people than the other. So take a lot of notes on the leaders you see out there that are doing it the way you would never do it. You'll learn more from those people than the others. So that's another big tip.
Yeah, I always say it's more important to know what you don't want than what you do want. It's really
100%.
easy to know what you do want.
Yeah.
So is this all of this amazing experience that you've gotten over the years? Is this what led you to developing Brave CNY?
Yes. Oh my gosh.
I'm so excited for you. You're perfect for
Oh.
it. That is your calling. I mean, just sitting down with you, I'm like, I need to call her after this and schedule a session with her. Clearly,
This is exactly what I love to do, is work with people because again, I want everyone to find the way that they can feel empowered in their day to day. I want you to thrive. I want you to show up and be the leader that you want to be. Just like we do for the caregivers. It's like we all just want to show up in these certain ways. We have this vision for our life. We have this vision for how we want it to be, how we want to be felt when we leave the room. And I walk around a cemetery every morning when I take my dog for a walk. And it really does have a profound impact on my life because I think about the words that people have on their headstones and the way that they left the world. They probably didn't tell people what to write. It's what their loved ones felt about them that is on that headstone. And I think about that every day. And I'm like, how can I help other people maybe support them in that dream that they have for themselves? No one wants on their headstone, like hot-headed, made terrible decisions. It's like, no, we want this essence of love and compassion to be felt and skill and strength. And so, yeah, through Brave CNY, this company, it's 2 years old now, which is crazy. I've been able to work alongside non-for-profits, for-profits, and really work with the people. That's my sweet spot. I work with the people who make these companies run, the people who make it possible. And I get to work with them on the things that they dream about, that they're working towards. And we really, that's been the sweet spot and what I love to do. Yeah.
I love that. That's so exciting. And is doing this consulting work, is this kind of where you saw your career panning out eventually, or was it just something that happened naturally because there was a demand for it and you were already kind of doing it, so why not? I'm sure that a little bit of both, maybe.
Yeah. So I don't know if you know Al Kutri, but he's another local entrepreneur.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the name, but I don't
Amazing
believe I've
human.
ever I don't think I've ever met him.
He wears a lot of hats. He's a beautiful human. And him and I were having coffee a couple of years ago. And I had talked to him a few times just about, I was like, oh, I can't do a company. Like, I can't start a company. I run David's Refuge. I love it. I don't want anything to change there. And he's like, Kate, the next time we have coffee, you better have a business started. And I was like, all right, fine. It was more like okay, he challenged me and I'm slightly competitive. I'm very competitive. So I started Brave CNY without all the things I tell people to start companies with, without a business plan, without any clients. And I just crafted it really to make sure that I didn't live my life and not do this thing that I've been talking about doing. And I don't love when people talk about doing something and don't follow through. And that's what he put in my face. See my who here. he put it in my face, like, you've been talking about this for a while. Why don't you just do it? So yeah, I would say I was doing a lot of coaching and consulting anyways. And this was a way for me to put an actual title around it and to really force myself to educate myself more, to build, I mean, I am always reading, I am always researching, I'm always thinking about how I could, ooh, that's a cool challenge. Like, how could we help that company? So it has really forced me into a whole new realm of leadership and learning more and more every single day because all these different companies have different challenges and they're not my companies. So I get to work with those leaders on their challenges. So it's been really exciting and thrilling to be able to be part of other people's teams in this capacity for sure. And I just hope to continue it. The beauty in my life and the gift is that David's Refuge fully supports me working on this and doing what I'm doing. And I look at it as I get to do both. And I'm the luckiest girl ever. So it's pretty incredible. I don't know what the future brings, but right now my life is so beautifully full. Yeah.
Yeah, and as someone who does love to research and you're like a sponge, right? You just love to soak it all up. I'm very similar. It must be so cool to have the luxury of not being attached to the problems that are happening within an organization, but being able to help that. And I'm sure you've just learned a lot in general about all different kinds of businesses. There's so much to learn, especially when you're in that consulting role and you get kind of, uh, the backstage pass to how are these companies being run? How are they making money? How are they managing it? And so that's really cool.
Yeah. And all the things that I love, it's the building of a culture. It is the humanizing leadership. Those are the pieces that I love to be able to do. So many leaders, and they just are. They're too busy to be able to do all of the things. And so I get to be that added layer for their company. So I get to meet with their staff once a month and understand what's going on in their life and then report that back over and let the leader know sometimes, like, this is what's going on, this is what we're working on, this is what the staff member is really trying to accomplish right now. And so it just opens up the communication in a world where many leaders just don't have the bandwidth to sit and actually get to know their team members. And it's not anyone's fault. It's just the society we're living in. It's so fast paced. So I've been able to do that for many people too, which is truly a lovely gift. Yeah, for sure.
A gift to you and also to these leaders, because like one of the things that I've been wrapping my head around lately is that I've become aware of the fact that I'm like, I just want someone to tell me what to do for once, right? Like for once, I want to be led, but I may not be in the position right now of having that luxury, right? And I have, but I also am very aware that like the more involved I am and the more I'm able to be invested in what everyone else is doing and be able to lead them, obviously the more stuff gets done, right? But it's just a matter of I think just figuring out how everybody works, how you need to work, and how you need to be maintaining the projects and the team that's going on.
Yeah, just that.
So I think I need to like seriously, we need to talk after
Yeah,
this because
absolutely.
I would love to just become a more effective, more present leader.
Mhm.
I think, it depends on where we're at, but there's some weeks where I'm really present and things are getting done and things are great and the ball's moving. And then there's some weeks where like my attention has to be over here and it's just constantly it's different all the time.
Yeah. And it sounds to me that you're in a place that many leaders are in where you actually have to start the letting go process and really allowing the team to do what they are there to do. And that's a really tough place, especially as a founder and you've been doing all of these things. I always say think about how weird it would be if you were watching a football game and the coach ran on the field, took the final touchdown pass and ran it into the end zone. That would be the weirdest thing you would have ever witnessed. It would be all over as like the craziest football thing that ever happened, as if the coach ran on the field, took the ball and scored. That's what many leaders do. We are like, we're in the balcony most of the time. watching our amazing team and colleagues do what they do best. And then every once in a while, we jump off the balcony because we think we have to, and we go on and we start to mess up the field and throw things all around and take the pass. And that's not what we're meant to do. Now, in startup companies, sometimes you have to. We all know that. You have to jump in. But as much as you can, you got to be staying over here. You got to be watching these people you've empowered to do the work do what they do best. And so it starts to be that separation. So for you, it might be a start of, how often do I run on the field? And what happens when I run on the field? My teammates just kind of look at me like, what's she doing? Or am I needed? Did they need me to do that? Would they have fallen? So it's just that analysis. And as you grow as your company and your leadership, you'll start to realize more and more how often you don't have to run on that field.
Yeah, and it's like it's also like, okay, so why do I feel like I need to? What's going on with my own leadership where I'm dropping the ball over here, so we're falling short over here, and then I have to come in and pick up the slack. Whereas like, let's start from the ground up and let's figure out the things that I need to be doing as a leader so that I don't have to swoop in and take over, you
Right.
know.
Yeah.
And that's really the the secret
Yeah.
of being a good leader. It's just like that I don't have that, all I don't have the experience yet or the
Sure.
knowledge yet. So
Yeah.
it's humbling. It really is. But you know, I'm a lot like you and I constantly remind myself of how lucky I am to get to do this stuff for work. I mean, these are good problems to have. And we're not saving lives at the CNY Women's Network. We're making lives more fun. So
It's a beautiful place to be,
it's not
for
the end of the
sure.
world.
And that's a really great point too. My team will say, I use the term burning buildings a lot. And if they come to me with something, I'm like, is this a burning building? And if it's not, I usually will say, I'm sure that you'll have a great solution for that. And that took me I mean, if my team's going to listen to this, be like, Kate, you're not like, you're always, I think I've really grown in the last couple of years because I had to. The organization can't grow if I'm still trying to get my hands in all of the things. And so I have to remove myself from it. And they're better. My colleagues and teammates are better at all of these things than I am, you know? So I've also hired some really smart people, which I'm sure you have too. So I've had to coach myself many times because I could answer questions, but if it's not a burning building, if the decision is not going to create, a ripple effect and make David's Refuge fall apart, then do I need to be around the table for that decision? Or can I empower them to make the decision and then be okay with whatever happens? So it's you questioning every single time where you find yourself running onto the field and saying, what am I doing here? And where's the gap? Where's the gap in knowledge for the teammate that couldn't answer it? So it's you, yes, very intentionally doing this, and it's going to take a lot of energy, but it won't forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I'm telling myself. It's like it's going to be really hard work now, but eventually. I mean, that's the whole point of scaling, right? Scaling is not easy, but
Yeah.
so David's Refuge has you guys have the largest event of the year coming up in
We
June. What
do.
is that
It's so
event?
much
What's it called?
fun.
What's it
So
about?
it's called Taste of David's Refuge.
Okay.
It's June 13th at Heritage Hill. Have you been out to
I
Heritage?
haven't, but
Oh my
everyone loves it.
gosh.
Yes, I have
Yes.
to make it out there soon actually. The Alzheimer's Association is putting on an event there soon
Oh,
too.
nice. Yeah. So June 13th, we'll be out there. And I'm really excited this year. I'm excited every year, but this year is a special year. We are honoring Dr. Melissa Carmen, and she is the owner of CNY Mental Health Counseling. And what I love about this, and it speaks to all the things that you promote in your business, in your life, in your essence, which I love about you, is how collaboration, especially women collaborating, can really change the community, change the world, I'm going to say. And so Dr. Carmen and I met probably 8 years ago at this point, and I saw that she was in the industry. She was a mental health counseling professional. And I said to her at that time, oh my gosh, caregivers really could use mental health support. That's just they're struggling with anxiety and depression and so many pieces that come with becoming a full-time caregiver. And her and I were doing the thing of like, do you think that we could like create a program and offer mental health counseling? And so now, all these years later, with the support of my amazing team who really make this happen, her team, our team have now built a partnership, a collaboration between David's Refuge and CNY Mental Health Counseling, where caregivers get a direct line to mental health counseling support. And it's to the tune of hundreds of caregivers every year this many years in. So it's something we're really proud of, and it's saving lives. It's impacting people. It's allowing them the tools to manage their own mental health so that they can continue on this role and this journey as a caregiver. So we're honoring Melissa, and we're going to have so many great people out there at Heritage Hill, and it's always a beautiful night. It's a Friday. It's casual, so people can come right after work and just have a really great time with us.
June is the perfect time of year for that too.
Yeah,
I
we're
love
excited.
that.
We're excited.
Well, we'll be sure to leave. Is there a registration link for that, or is there just like a information on that online?
Yeah, so everything's on davidsrefuge.org. So we can definitely please check it out and come party with us.
Yeah. At
Yeah,
Heritage Hill. What better place?
I know.
Are they
It's so
dog
great.
friendly? I'm pretty sure they are, right?
They are dog friendly. No one's actually brought a dog to our event, but there's always a first. So
Yeah.
go for it.
I don't know why I brought that up, but I was just thinking about it.
They had a whole social media post about dogs recently.
Oh,
So maybe
okay.
you saw that.
Okay, maybe that was it. Yeah, there's
Love
always
it.
things coming in. So we'll be sure to leave that in the show notes.
Amazing.
And Brave CNY, is there anything, coming up for that? Or are you just gonna still kind of consult and build?
Yeah. So I continue to build that really organically, I would say, through different connections in the community and just telling the story of what I love to do and how I love to come alongside companies. So it is expanded beautifully. And I'm happy to say at this moment, I'm pretty much at full capacity as far as working with these amazing companies, teams, people, nonprofit leaders. I love that I get to work with other nonprofit leaders through the CNY Community Foundation. So I definitely am always open to talk to people about what their current needs are. And if it works for both of us, then I would love to jump in and learn more. I don't have anything coming up. I just love that I get to do this in this community for sure. It's been an amazing part of my journey that I am able to give back all of the knowledge that others have imparted on me. And I really love seeing leaders transform into this amazing version of themselves where they finally believe in themselves. They finally are able to get up every day and say, I am the leader I need to be for my team. I know what to do. I have someone I can talk to, because many times we just don't have anyone to talk to.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And it's all about, making sure you're being conscious of that and consciously asking for that mentorship and that help.
yes.
That is the hole I find myself in. Maybe because I did grow up like in more individualistic type of uh, worlds and roles. But just recently, actually, it was after our summit. I, am so passionate about everyone else feeling supported and connected. But I still at times am like, where's my support? Like I show up and I have to be strong and like a force of positivity for all these people, which I love doing. Don't get me wrong. I love to make people feel hope and feel good and feel empowered. But I was like, I think I need to start prioritizing my own
Mhm.
uh, need for leadership, because just because I am in this leadership role doesn't mean that I don't need to be led. Doesn't mean that I can't be led either. I just have to go out and look for it and
Yeah.
make it happen for
Yeah.
myself, which is half the battle, but we're getting there. It's all about asking for help. So
It really is. It really is. If there's yeah, I'm sitting here. I told you before we started all of this, I said, I have some things I already want to like just talk to you about and unpack. I think being curious is one of my virtues. And
yeah.
so when people say things, I'm like, I want to know more about that.
Yeah. I'm a curious cat too. So I love
Yeah,
it.
we get curious each other out.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll definitely get coffee soon.
Sounds good.
This was an absolute pleasure, Kate. Thank you so much for your time. I loved chatting with you, and I'm sure this won't be the last.
I love to be a part of your journey. So thanks for having me for sure.
All right, guys, that's it for this week's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in to Cultivate CNY. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd love it if you left us a review and make sure you're subscribed to the show. Speaking of the show, if you or someone you know wants to be our next guest on Cultivate CNY, you can submit an application. Just click the link in the show notes and we'll be in touch soon. If you're a business owner that's interested in getting in front of our audience and would like to find out more about sponsorship or advertising opportunities, shoot us an email at podcast@cnywomensnetwork.com. We'd love to work with you. All right, that's it for now. We will catch you next Monday.